Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about my apparent obsession with K-pop centers. This is going to be a little bit of a discussion kind of video where I sort of ramble on and on and on. So if you hate the sound of my voice, I'm sorry, but keep watching anyway because I appreciate your time. Plus, rambling on about K-pop is how I cope. Instead of having a therapist, I just go on YouTube and rant about random stuff. So here you go, here's a result of that. Like, comment, subscribe, let's go. I've been into K-pop since 2018, and by this point I've kind of realized that I keep gravitating towards the members in groups that are in the center positions or the face of the group. So I want to talk a little bit about why that is. Is it a me thing, or am I just falling for the marketing of these K-pop companies? Because they push certain members in the faces of the public, and I guess it works for me, and I want to kind of figure out why. So of course, when you're getting into new groups, your eye is definitely going to be drawn to the person that's in the center, the person that holds a lot of space. They'll have the most lines, so they'll have more screen time. That all makes sense, that's logical. But then there's a part of me that keeps, biasing centers, even if they're not what I would usually go for. I don't know. This definitely happened with IZ*ONE, when the whole time during the Produce 101 series that IZ*ONE was in, I did not think that she would be my bias for that group at all. Since it was obvious that she was going to debut, and I didn't really see any of her charm throughout that process. And then it was only when they debuted as a group officially that I began to see her in a different light. And she wasn't the only member that caught my eye after their debut. Minju is also one of those idols in that category for me. Some other examples of this would also be Twice's Nayeon and Red Velvet's Irene. So for Twice's Nayeon, that was a really shocking thing for me because I'd gone through all of the members in my mind as a potential bias for me. And I don't know, I felt like I was switching biases every week. It's really hard to find a bias in Twice, just putting that out there. But especially for me, I just didn't know who my bias would be. It was ridiculous. And then it was only when I finally landed on Nayeon that I realized, hey, maybe this is a right fit. I'm talking about biases like their Wands or Ollivanders. But you know what they say, you don't choose your bias chooses you. So what is it about the centers that keeps pulling me towards them? And then the same thing kind of applies with Red Velvet, except I had no idea, I didn't switch biases in my mind with Red Velvet. I just didn't have a bias at all, really. I don't know, but I couldn't figure it out. And then one day, Irene was just in my head, and I was like, okay, it's Irene. That's it. I've just found my bias now, and I don't think I've gone back from that decision. When I first started thinking about what is it about K-pop centers that is extremely charismatic, at first I thought, maybe there's something about their personality, maybe that sticks out or something. But perhaps that isn't necessarily the case. And it goes back to that whole idea of screen time and company marketing. Because if you think about it, of course, the more time you spend with a person, the more interesting they become. And I would be a fool if I didn't admit that companies will often put the less popular members to the side in favor of pushing forward the most popular members. So this all kind of factors in somehow. So then this creates an imbalance between the members that are more popular and have a more fleshed out personality than the least popular members, who are kind of reduced to stereotypes. And you'll see that played out within fandoms. A great example of this, I think, would be Yuta from NCT. And I say that because often you'll hear from Yutazens that they kind of only see him as part of his ship with Mark Lee. And I'm not going to gaslight Yutazens at all. I kind of think they're right. Even though I am a Mark Zen, I agree with them 100%. But this is what happens. This is exactly what happens when a company like SM will deprive a member of a huge group like NCT, deprive that member of screen time, they'll deprive them of lines, and then as a consequence of that, have them be reduced to their relationship with the more popular members. So you're kind of taking away their individuality, and then they become background. I mean, this is a perfect example using NCT because they also have members like Win-Win, who is rarely spoken about amongst citizens unless you bring up his relationship with the other members of NCT 127. And then him as an actual person is kind of overshadowed by his link to other members. And I mean, this is exactly why solo stands exist. I mean, it's a pretty rare sight, from what I've seen, to have solo stands favor the least popular member. And I'm not trying to attack solo stands, but it's an interesting observation, and I have to say that it is most likely due to company marketing having a role to play. And so when it comes to K-pop centers, we love to love them, but we also love to hate them. Because companies will love to push forward who the centers are on stage instead of what they're actually like off stage. So this is super interesting, and it totally doesn't make any sense when said like that, but let me try and explain. Now note that I said on stage versus off stage instead of on stage versus real life, because of course we'll never actually know what they're like off stage without cameras and anything that we've seen of their off stage activities. Now let me bring up NCT again because I alt them and I will talk about them whenever I want. But with them, we have Lee Taeyong, who is, I feel like every few weeks or so, every other week, he's dragged online for being a bully, and it's only taken SM Entertainment this long to finally take legal action. And then think about it, Taeyong on stage is this cool, charismatic, handsome, persona. But then you'll see him off stage laughing at Animal Crossing music, playing video games on V Live. It's like a complete juxtaposition, and that's the duality that fans like. But then it's the first thing that comes under fire when the group is under fire, because centers are kind of the personification of their group. So by this, what I mean to say is that all members of a group are stereotyped and reduced to their basic personalities. But with centers, it's got more to do with who they are on stage than off stage. And with the least popular members, it's hardly based on anything at all. I feel like they barely get a chance to prove themselves off stage, let alone on stage, because they're given barely as much opportunities as their more popular counterparts. And I also think that Red Velvet's Irene is another great example, because on stage everyone wants to be her, everyone wants to be like her, people want to have her, I guess. Like, she's just an icon of perfection. She is supposed to be perfect, and she has fewer chances to slip up on that image because she's a woman. Let's just say it how it is. Most likely the double standard of being a woman. So then when she was under fire for being seen with a feminist book that goes against, I guess, the conservative values of Korean society, she was absolutely taken down. I mean, she was completely under fire and scrutiny. She was completely under intense scrutiny there. So again, we love to love them, but apparently we also love to hate them. That's an interesting dynamic. But then think about it in the context of having an unpopular member be under fire. I don't think it would go down too well. People would hesitate less to write comments like, leave the group, you're a visual whole, you're a dance whole, you know, all these things, you don't add anything to the group, OT -1, you know? So if I really reflect on why I like centers, yeah, I am the company's puppet, I think. I think they really have got me by my strings, because whatever they're pushing forward, generally, I tend to love it. You know, regardless of what K-pop group you decide to stan, you know, you're always sure that there's talent there. You're never in doubt, ever. And that's an amazing feeling to have. And then with the centers, they have the added bonus of being the member with the most fleshed out personality, most likely. Or at least, if not fleshed out, they have a positive stereotype attached to their persona. So then there's kind of no harm. In short, I'm extremely vanilla. And I guess I'm changing my username to GCFKIRA. But yeah, I think that's all I really have to say on this topic. Like, please. Comment. Subscribe. I only have 4 subscribers, and like, they're all me on like my different accounts, most likely. So subscribe. Share the video if you feel so inclined. Love you guys. Goodbye.